Welcome back to The Explainer. Today we're breaking down an absolute masterclass in marketing strategy. We're going to look at exactly how a brand called Ching's Secret managed to take a local street food habit, package it up, and turn it into a massive FMCG empire, one that eventually caught the eye of Tata Consumer Products. I mean, it's the ultimate business question, isn't it? How on earth do you beat deeply entrenched global food giants in a market as vast and incredibly complex as India? Well, you don't do it by playing their game. You do it by literally rewriting the rules from scratch. So here's our roadmap for this explainer. We'll start by defining the Desi Chinese category, look at how they built an ecosystem, injected spice and personality, and then examine the ultimate battle, Ching's versus Maggi. Wrap it all up with their consumer funnel and your key business takeaways. Let's get right into it. First up, Section 1, the Desi Chinese category and how they defined a cultural phenomenon. To really get Ching's, you have to understand the brilliant cultural insight they tapped into way before the major players even noticed. They carved out a brand new space called Desi Chinese. You see, Indian consumers already had this massive love for street-style Chinese food. But here's the catch. It wasn't authentic, not even close. It was Chinese food heavily adapted for the Indian palate. We're talking way more spice, much bolder flavors, just a totally unique Indian twist. Ching saw this happening and formulated a super simple equation. Chinese food plus Indian taste plus the absolute convenience of packaged food equals Desi Chinese. Just look at the stark contrast in positioning here. Imagine a generic brand A launching with the tagline, "Authentic Chinese Noodles." Sounds pretty premium, right? But for the mass Indian market, Ching's went straight for Chinese flavors with Indian masala. They explicitly communicated that blend. And the lesson here is profound for anyone in business. Culturally relevant localization almost always beats strict, rigid authenticity when you're going after the mass market. Moving to Section 2, building an ecosystem, going way beyond just noodles. Ching's knew that if they wanted to build an absolute fortress in the consumer's kitchen, just selling a packet of noodles was going to leave them incredibly vulnerable. So what did they do? They aggressively built out a complete Desi Chinese ecosystem. I mean, just look at this portfolio. Hakka noodles, instant noodles, Szechuan chutney, sauces, chili vinegar, masala, soups, the whole shebang. They weren't just asking you to buy a quick snack. They were handing you the entire toolkit to cook Desi Chinese right at home. They transformed into a complete cooking solution. But hey, an ecosystem only works if people actually, try it. The crucial point here is how they drove penetration, using a classic, highly effective FMCG playbook. By introducing these super accessible price points, especially that magic 10 rupee format in general trade, they basically created the ultimate low-risk barrier to entry. This scooped up students, young consumers, and middle-income households just like that. The sequence is honestly brilliant. You've got a low entry price, which naturally drives a trial run. That leads to a repeat purchase, and boom, you've got deep household penetration. And obviously, you can't penetrate households if you aren't actually on the shelves. That number right there, 350,000, that represents the massive, frankly staggering scale of their distribution network. Ching's skyrocketed their presence from roughly 50,000 outlets to over 350,000 across multiple states. When your target consumer is making a routine or even an impulse grocery decision, simply being literally everywhere is a massive competitive advantage. All right, Section 3, spice and personality, diving into their entertainment-led marketing. Now, having a great product ecosystem and wide distribution is fantastic, for sure, but how do you actually make people care? Well, you inject some serious personality to spice things up. Ching's didn't just act like a standard packaged food company. They acted like a youth entertainment brand. They partnered up with Bollywood superstar Ranveer Singh. But instead of just having him hold up a packet of noodles and smile for the camera, they went all out. They created these high-energy, over-the-top, Bollywood-style mini-movies. The chain of association here is so powerful. Ranveer Singh equals Bollywood, which captures the youth, which drives entertainment, and that links directly back to Ching's. It totally established them as the definitive brand for fun, spicy, Desi Chinese. They also played the brand-to-brand collaboration game with incredible savvy. Take a look at the strategic co-branding between Kurkure and Ching Secret's Szechuan chutney. I mean, this was pure genius. It perfectly combined Kurkure's massive distribution reach with Ching's totally unique flavor equity, all backed up by that Bollywood star power. It essentially guaranteed massive consumer attention across completely different snack categories. Which brings us to Section 4, Ching's versus Maggi, a true battle of positioning. So with all this forward momentum, how did they deal with the massive elephant in the room? Maggie. Well, Ching's didn't try to beat Maggie at being Maggie. Maggie already owns comfort, familiarity, and the core instant noodle category. So Ching's went the completely opposite direction. They claimed fun, spice, and adventure. Their personality is super quirky and bold, and their strategy? It was never just about instant noodles. It was about owning that entire desi Chinese ecosystem. Look, if a consumer wants a familiar, warm comfort snack, yeah, they might grab Maggie. But the second they think, hey, I kind of want some Chinese-style food, Ching's made absolutely sure they were the only logical choice.
Now, this highly unique positioning gives them some incredible strengths, but for sure some clear vulnerabilities too. The strengths are pretty obvious: category leadership and rock-solid distribution. But their weakness? It's actually that super narrow association with spicy flavors. It might completely alienate anyone looking for, say, authentic, mild Chinese food. However, just look at the opportunities. They are perfectly positioned to capitalize on quick commerce and emerging food trends. In fact, leaning right into their established quirky brand equity, they've recently adopted to the massive Korean food trend, rolling out Korean ramen and noodles that are perfectly tailored to their specific audience.
Let's look at the actual mechanics in Section 5, the consumer funnel. So how does all this actually build into a cohesive funnel? Taking someone from a first glance to having a fully stocked pantry. Well, it starts at the top with massive awareness generated by Bollywood and punchy digital ads. That immediately drives interest through the quirky communication of those bold flavors. Next up is trial, completely fueled by those affordable 10 rupee packs and that incredibly deep distribution we talked about. Once they've tried it, the taste and convenience naturally drive repeat purchases. And here's the kicker. Because the brand offers an entire ecosystem, the consumer organically expands their portfolio. They start buying the sauces and the chutneys alongside the noodles. And this whole journey culminates in absolute brand loyalty, where Ching's literally becomes synonymous with Daisy Chinese. And the real beauty of this funnel, it appeals to a surprisingly broad audience. While their absolute core target is young, urban, aspirational Indians looking for a trendy, spicy bite, their diverse portfolio captures so much more than that. Working professionals rely on it for quick cooking after a long day. Families use it to recreate those fun, restaurant-style meals right at home. And food experimenters grab it to test out new flavors like Szechuan or Korean. It's this brilliant paradox, a highly targeted specific personality, but with massive mass-market appeal. All right, bringing it home with Section 6, Key Business Takeaways, the lessons we can pull from this playbook. We've covered a lot of ground in this explainer today. To really synthesize all this into actionable takeaways, I think it's super helpful to look at the timeline of their success. They were founded way back in 1996 under Capital Foods, and they were true early adopters, pioneering digital recipe content on Facebook and YouTube back in 2009. They were literally teaching people how to use their ecosystem before content marketing was even a buzzword. And the ultimate validation of this entire multi-decade strategy, in 2024, Capital Foods was acquired by Tata Consumer Products, specifically so Tata could expand into these massively fast-growing food categories. And that huge acquisition happened because they answered one fundamental question perfectly. Why fight blood, sweat, and tears for a tiny, tiny slice of the existing instant noodle pie against entrenched global giants when you can just bake an entirely new pie called Daisy Chinese and own the whole thing yourself? So, if you're looking to replicate the Ching secret formula in your own world, here are your 5 pillars. Number 1, create a category, don't just try to compete in an existing one. 2, localize global products so they perfectly match local tastes. 3, build your brand around a genuine consumer culture, not just around a single product feature. 4, use entertainment to make your brand completely unmissable. And number 5, expand from just one hero product into an entire consumption ecosystem. I want to leave you with this final, somewhat provocative thought. I want you to look at your own industry, your own market right now. What existing global product or service is just sitting there, rigid, stubborn, and overly authentic, just waiting for someone like you to localize it, inject some real personality, and create an entirely new category? The playbook is right here. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you on the next one.